Hi, everybody. We're just going to wait a couple minutes just to give people some time to log on here. So we'll get started here in a couple minutes. Okay, so we're going to kick this off here. I've got the okay that a good number of people are on, so we'll get this going just to respect everybody's time. I just wanted to thank everybody for joining us today. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Caitlin Langmead, and I'm a principal here at MMB+CO. And we're just really happy and excited to be able to provide this training for all of you on Engagement Organizer. So for those of you who don't know, Engagement Organizer is our document request system. And before we get started, I just did want to talk about some logistical matters of the Webinar to Go software that we're using today to put this on. If you need help adjusting your screen to see a little bit better, there is that talking tab up at the top, and if you click on that, you should be able to play around with it and make some adjustments just if you want to see the screen a little bit better. I am providing materials today up in that top right corner where the little paper clip and piece of paper are. There is a PowerPoint presentation for this. I'm going to stay in the Engagement Organizer software for the majority of this just to make this as hands-on as possible, but I do have some materials up there if you wanted to follow along or just keep them for your own use down the line. We are recording this, so if there are people who you think would benefit from this, we are able to share that. And also the plan is really to do this going forward on a semi-annual basis. So we will be doing this again sometime in the fall. So if there are people you think would want to be able to watch this, but maybe weren't able to, we will be doing this again. So just for everyone's knowledge, we will be taking questions throughout. Please feel free to speak if you're comfortable or to use the chat. As we're going, I will be monitoring as I'm going through things, but there is also going to be some time for question and answer at the end here. And also, please, I think there's a chat feature and a questions feature. Please just try to use the chat just so I can make sure I get to everybody's questions and I don't miss any trying to toggle back and forth here. So now that we have all those logistical matters out of the way, I'll actually start talking about the software itself. So you'll see I'm sharing my screen here for Engagement Organizer, and I did set up one, so I'm looking at the same view that any of you would be looking at. This isn't the view we have as our auditor view. It's very similar, but there are some differences. So I just wanted to be able to get a sense of what you guys see so I can help you out the most here. I was going to start in the top left corner here, and you'll see that there's this Organizers tab. Generally speaking, when you log in or you get the verification to log in that you've been added to an organizer, when you log in, it's going to take you to this screen, the organizer that we've specifically added you to. But you also have the ability here, if you go to this little home button in organizers, you're going to be able to see every organizer that you might have access to. So this would be any other potential, if you're you know, working on a lot of different clients. If you're an outsourced person here, you would have access to them through here, and also through for prior years. So I think a lot of people like to go back and look and see what they provided last year as a guide to remember. Obviously, you guys only do this once a year, so you're not going to remember every single thing you gave us last year. So here's a way to be able to click onto another organizer. These are mostly training ones, but you'll see it's from a prior year and you would have access to it through here. So you just kind of keep having to go back to this home, this organizer's function, and you'll be able to see all the ones you have access to. So going back into our training organizer, up here at the top, you're going to see the name of the organization itself, and also the year that for the organizer that it pertains to, the fiscal year end that it pertains to. Moving down in the left-hand side, you'll see this due date area, and this is something that we put in when we set the organizer up. And typically what we've been doing is putting the due date as a week before it actually starts, just because the nice feature about this is that if we put something in here, it is going to send you a reminder as that due date is approaching, just because I know we all get so busy, and so it'll just send an email reminder to you, hey, you know, the due date's coming up, so that putting that a week before, it'll give you a chance if you need that reminder to go in and then start adding information, just so that we're ready to kick off the audit when we're actually scheduled to do the work. This retention end here, this is generally something set by CCH. We can put dates in here, but CCH does have a retention period, which I believe is about 2 years past the date the organizer was set up. I don't think we've had too many instances where people are actually losing the ability to get into an organizer that they wanted to get into, but just so you know, this could, and CCH hasn't been necessarily great about enforcing it, but this would just let you know if there is a retention end date on when the organizer would go away, potentially. Client users, this is going to be anyone at your organization who has access to this specific organizer that we've invited you to. So typically what we like to do is set it up with someone we know, we absolutely know who's been involved with the audit every single year, and then we kind of give you the option to add people as you see fit. I will let you know that if you do have someone added as a client user, they are going to have access to anything that is uploaded to the organizer. There isn't really any capabilities with an organizer to restrict access to different types of documents. You're more than able to password protect something if you want to, and let us know when we download it how to get access to it if there are certain things on the organizer that you don't want potential client users having access to, but you want to provide us with. That is always an option, but just for everyone's knowledge, if you don't secure any documents you add in this specific organizer, anyone who's in this client user function would be able to click on it and see that information, just for your own knowledge. Firm users, that's going to be anybody who at our firm, MMB, who has logged on and has access to the organizer itself. Moving kind of across the way here to the right side at the top, you're going to see this first sent to client. That's the first time we've actually sent you the organizer through the send feature here. And then the last sent, it's going to be the last date it was actually sent to you. Last sent to the firm, that's going to be anytime you guys send it to us. Just some date functions probably to see, you know, when the last time information was updated. I will stress that this send button is the most important button in this entire organizer, because if you're not hitting send as you're uploading things, it doesn't give us any notification that that the organizer has been modified in any way. So it's really important as you're doing things. I'm not saying if you're uploading a lot of documents, you know, you have to hit send every single time you do them, but it is really important to remember to hit this send button, you know, especially as field work goes on, as you know, if we're wrapping up any open items, especially when it comes to doing any 990 checklists, because we know those usually happen, those get completed after the audit's completed. This send feature is so, so important because it'll just let us know that something has been changed in the organizer, and then we can go in and see what changes have been made just to make sure we're all staying on top of any open items for your benefit here. So I'll probably come back to this again just because it is probably the most important button in Organizer, but just so everybody knows that. In the middle here, you're going to see these 3 tabs. You'll have this request items, and that's generally what defaults to come up when you're working in Organizer. That's going to have all the requests we've made, and that's what we generally work out of. But there also is a notes tab. And this would allow you to see kind of the back and forth of any notes that have gone on. I know if you add a note here, if you add more than 1 note in this request item section, you're only going to see the last note that somebody actually left. So I know sometimes things can go, you know, maybe if you have 2 or 3 messages back and forth or something like that, and you're trying to get a sense of the whole conversation, as it were, this notes feature is really, really helpful, I feel like, when going back through and looking them over, if that's something that you want to do. So the next one is attachments, and this is just going to be all of the attachments that have been uploaded. This might be a nice thing to use as you're going through and adding documentation, just because you won't have to, I feel like it just gives you an easier sense of what has actually been uploaded. If you try and upload something, it'll show you that. So like if I hit upload here, I can browse. I made a specific folder for this. If I open this, let's say I want to add a trial balance. And don't worry, all of these are just blank documents for our purposes, but I can upload it here. And it might be a little bit easier than going through and seeing, having to click. And it also is nice because if you add more than 1 attachment to one area, if there's multiple items, say like if you want to do the board meeting minutes and it's not all one document, it's nice to add it here because going through here you can see all the attachments that have been uploaded pretty easily, better than the request items section. You also have the ability to filter it by section if you wanted to. If you say you're the person who handles all the general information, you know, someone else is handling these other things, you could you can filter it to see what you've actually attached, and then it's going to only show you what you've done in each section. If you only want without attachments, you only want to see what you haven't gotten to yet. But you can go without, close. It's going to show you everything that you haven't done an attachment for. So it'll let you know kind of at year end what's still open. And obviously it's pretty easy to get rid of that filter if that's something you want to do. So that's really helpful too. I feel like sometimes going through the request items, sometimes I can't see something as well. And I feel like moving to the attachment screen has just helped me tremendously in seeing what's actually been attached. You'll see something too as I hit the attachment thing. I added something, and here's my trial balance, my fake trial balance that I added, and say, you know, you also have the capability down here to add through the manage attachments on the ellipsis, the 3 little dots here. You can go through the same way. Say I had board minutes I wanted to add. I could add them here, upload them. And pretty much the same thing is going to happen. So there's a lot of different ways to actually get something done in Organizer. Say I wanted to add a note here. If I was the auditor, let's say I got the board minutes and something was maybe missing. Maybe we're missing December. And you'll see that anything with a star is obviously required. So You could just say the same thing if you wanted to, if there's no long message here. And save it. And that's going to come up and bring that note. And just to give you an example of how it only shows that one note, the last note that's been done. Let's say, you know, I reviewed the minutes. I noticed maybe there wasn't one for the month of December, but perhaps the board didn't actually meet in December. So you could respond back to me, you know, the board didn't meet and no meeting minutes kept. And you would save that. And so you'll see there's been 2 notes, but I only see that last note that's actually been done. So if I go to this notes feature, then you can see the actual conversation that's taken place regarding that. So the next areas here are all the different areas regarding kind of what state the requests are in at the time. So anything that's pending is going to be, from our perspective, anything that's still open, anything that hasn't been addressed, anything that's, we don't typically reject many things, but this would be anything that maybe wasn't accepted and maybe needs follow-up. I don't think anyone actually uses this though. I feel like it's a little too aggressive. We don't want to reject things around here. Anything completed, this will be marked by you as you feel like you've completed the request. So, you know, I provided the trial balance. I'm going to mark this as completed, and it's going to move it into that completed section. So really, as you're going through and you're adding requests, I would really encourage you to move things to that completed section as you go, just because anything that's in pending really should be anything that's open. I feel like just to keep it, you know, as organized as things can possibly be, you know, and I feel like there's a sense of accomplishment from moving something from pending to completed. So if things are incompleted, you can see everything you've done. Typically at that point, we would go through, we would do any work we needed to do. And if we were fine with what we've been received, we would then mark it as accepted. I believe you guys don't have that capability, but we would mark it as accepted on our end. If there are certain things that maybe aren't applicable to you, say there's intercompany revenues and expenses, you're not a consolidated entity, you could just mark that yourself as not applicable, and it would go into that not applicable section. So again, only leaving what's open, what's truly open, so you have, you know, a real-time listing of what's open for the audit, because that really is the really positive thing about Engagement Organizer. Gone are the days of those Word and Excel lists of what's open and not really being sure of what's been addressed and what hasn't. This should give you the most real-time understanding of what is still open in regards to the audit. And you also do have a capability to, again, review everything, whether it's been pending, rejected, completed, accepted. You could review everything as well if you're moving things around and you still want to go back and see, you know, what did I actually do? What didn't I do? I want to see everything all in one place again. That all function is going to do that for you. You do have the ability to clear anything that's new or edited. I don't know if people use that a ton, but it is nice to see if something new has been added and say you want to clear that out so that you're adding a whole nother round of documents and people can see what's new and what's not. That would do that. You do have the capability to download everything. So say, you know, you add everything for the audit and you want to download it all to one spot so that maybe you can save it and you can go back next year and look at what you actually provided. You do have that capability. You can click on download. It's going to download a folder that you can usually save on your desktop if you want to. And this does the same. If you wanted to download the entire list itself on its own, you have that capability too. Say you're trying to compile things from maybe a bunch of different people and you want to assign it out. You do have the capability to download the list to Excel so that you can modify, assign things as needed and if you didn't necessarily want to add as many people to the organizer and you want to delegate that out. 3 dots here really are just those manage attachments. If you wanted to add a note, you can mark something back as pending if you wanted. Say you thought it was not applicable, but then you're like, oh no, we actually did have something new this year. You can go back and you can mark that back as pending if you wanted to. I don't think there's too many things in here you can do, but you can't like switch it back. So there is a lot of flexibility in the software itself. So with that, and I think if you go to organizers here, maybe it doesn't have this, but okay. I was thinking that there was a help feature, but that might just be on the auditor's end, which is okay. Because we're here to help you. So with that, I wanted to leave the last 10 minutes for any questions that people have. So please feel free, if you're comfortable speaking and unmuting yourself or putting something in the chat. I'd love to hear what questions people have, just so everyone can use the software in an easier way. So I'll just be monitoring the chat. Well, it appears as maybe someone has raised their hand. Well, as we're waiting for people, if they're thinking of maybe things for questions, I will get on my soapbox again here and send a reminder about hitting send. Send is your friend, so please send us a note here so that we can know that things have been modified in the system, just to stay on top of it, especially as things progress in the audit and maybe you know, we're in that wrap-up stage where we're not technically scheduled on the audit, but we're still wrapping things up. That send feature is so important, just to make sure we're getting all those changes that you're making and staying on top of things. Well, we can give it one more minute here to see if people have questions. I guess I should be glad that I've hopefully answered all the questions you had and made it easier to understand how the software works, and everyone will be ready to go here for our summer, spring and summer work seasons here. And I also want to say, as always, please feel free to, ask your teams, ask your engagement teams if you do have questions as things progress. We're always more than happy to help you navigate any system. We all have to deal so much with different types of software and technologies, so it's a lot to take in. Okay. Well, I wanted to thank everybody for joining us today as we went through Engagement Organizer. Like I said, we will have a recording of this, and we do plan to do this again in the fall. So if you need a refresher again, then please feel free to join us, and I hope everyone has a great week. Thank you.